Sunday in South Queensferry, the bell of the old parish church calling the faithful to attend. It has an interesting story behind it, that bell. There's a curse on it. An inscription on its side warns anyone who tries to remove it that they'll be calling down upon themselves the most dire of consequences. But to the people who live in the old part of South Queensferry, the part known as the Royal Borough, the church itself is a curse, and a highly expensive one. You see, back in the late 15 and early 1600s, when South Queensferry was little more than a tiny fishing hamlet on the banks of the Forth, the devout people of the village were greatly concerned because they had no place to worship. The nearest church was in Dalmeny, some miles up the road, not a very practical proposition for men whose lives were ruled by tides and weather. So they all got together and decided to build a church of their own. And to persuade a minister to come and live in what in those days must have seemed a rather grim and isolated community, they each promised to pay to their minister 10% of everything they owned every year. A royal charter was passed making their promise enforceable by law, and the parish church was consecrated. That was in 1635. Today, in 1971, that law still applies. There are something like 50 houses in the old Royal Borough, a bank, a couple of cafes, various businesses, and to the people who own them, they have to pay every year by law 10% of the rateable value of their property to the Church of Scotland. But that's only half of the story. The extraordinary thing is that the old parish church hasn't been used as a church for 9 years. It's been an art gallery for the past year. The only church nearby isn't in the Royal Borough at all. It's up the road in the new part of town. So what it amounts to is that the people who live in the Royal Borough are paying their money to a minister who isn't there anymore in a church which doesn't even exist. Mrs. Inglis, I have here what amounts to a final warning from the Church of Scotland regarding your non-payment of the levy on the old church. They're threatening to take legal action against you. Now, what are you going to do about it?
Absolutely nothing. Nothing at all. They can take action if they wish. And I won't pay, I never will. I'll go to prison.
But it's surely a fairly small amount you have to pay, isn't it?
Well, it's fairly small. I mean, it's £12, just over £12 a year. But that really isn't my concern, even if it was only £2 a year. It's the principle of the whole thing. And the thing is that mine may be a small sum, but I know some people in this community that are, well, one in particular, paying £70 a year, some 40, and so on. And this goes on forever. It's got to be stopped. And then, you see, I've had this put onto my house, this fire escape, and no doubt next year my rateable value of the house goes up, so the church benefits again.
How much do you pay toward the old parish church?
£46.12 a year.
Well, how do you feel about that?
I feel hellish about it. I feel that it used to be taxable, but now it's not. I don't get anything off of this at all. And it's not a church. It's a business. And that's what it is now. And I don't see why I should pay for a business. And I've been here 8 years and it's never been a church. Been a Sunday school, but never a church. There's no minister been there.
But why have you done nothing in 8 years?
Because, as I said, it was taxable. I mean, it's like anything else. It's gone up and up and up and up, and now it's £46.12. I think it's now come to a stop.
So what are you going to do?
Not pay.
Mr. Patterson, have you any idea how much money comes out of the Royal Borough?
About £640 per annum.
And where does that money go to?
This money will be used for the support of the parish minister at South Queensferry, or possibly for other purposes in the neighbourhood.
You see, Mr. Patterson, the money is coming from the Royal Borough, but there is no minister in the Royal Borough because the church doesn't exist there anymore.
Well, I think this is not technically so, because the church in Queensferry at present represents and is the continuation of the church which existed in the old Royal Borough. I know that the actual building has been sold now, but of course this is quite irrelevant. The church continues.
But it may not be irrelevant because the Royal Charter does specify the old parish church in the Royal Borough of South Queensferry.
No, I think you're quite wrong there. This has got no bearing on the issue at all. the church quite regularly sells buildings, but all the rights and responsibilities with regard to that building are transferred to a new property, which is the continuation.
I feel that it's money being put out to somebody for no benefit to come in from.
If the church was operating, would you go to it?
No, I wouldn't go to it because I'm not of the Church of Scotland denomination. I'm a Roman Catholic.
Well, this, of course, is quite irrelevant again. It's got no significance that people paying this money are not members of the Church of Scotland.
I think it's very relevant to the people who live in the Royal Borough of South Queensferry.
Yes, well, I think this is also relevant to the people who live in the old borough. They purchase their properties there, they pay a certain amount of money for them. When they purchase them, they know that a certain levy is to be made and that this is 10% of rental. If they don't know that when they acquire, they should know it. That's all I can say. When they decide to pay a price, they take this into account.
So the minister at the new parish church in South Queensferry is being maintained by money from people who don't even live in his district?
Well, I think they do live in his district.
Well, they feel they don't.
I would say that they probably do, but whether they live in his district or not is, of course, in law irrelevant.
Well, don't you think it would be charitable to perhaps forget the payments?
No, as I've said before, I think that people have taken this into account in acquiring the properties. There's absolutely no reason to forget it at all.
You can't deny that the church has the law on its side. But as one of their spokesmen once said, though I bestow all my goods to the poor, though I give up my body to be burned, and have not charity, it profiteth me nothing.